go.
We just, believe that there's a Ken.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Boys Gone Wild. We were sort of talking before because we were kind of worried that the last couple of episodes we just got too real.
There's been a lot of real shit in the news, so the Boys Gone Wild media conglomerates had to respond appropriately.
And a lot of people were saying, "Yo, guys, can you be a bit more fake?" Because
hey, where's the cock jokes?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the poo jokes you used to do?
So yeah, we felt that we decided to do an episode
Purely dedicated
about nothing.
Nothing.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah, and I think it's as much art reflecting society in that there's nothing to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
Other than the big news stories. But I think we're all a bit fed up with the big news stories.
And big pharma.
Big pharma.
And all the
big oil.
All big oil, upset with big
oil,
oil, big media,
cheese.
big media. The big cheeses who run
big
pharma.
Well, no, big cheese is in Pilgrim's Choice.
Oh, you mean the
Cathedral City.
Who's big cheese in this
Pilgrim's
country?
Choice Cathedral City.
Are those the kind of big players? Then do you know any smaller subsidiaries who have been struggling because of the power of big cheese?
Yeah, like how often
gravitational pull of Pilgrim's Choice?
How often have you heard of Cornwall's finest matured cheddar?
I haven't heard of it.
You haven't because of the grapple hold that big cheese has over the community, the industry. And the community.
But also over lockdown, we always talk about how everyone's losing out. Not big cheese. Big cheese have made huge gains.
Big cheese. If there's anyone maybe behind the pandemic, it's Zoom and big cheese.
Yeah. But then I guess there's one thing in the plus side for big cheese is that if you're the boss of big cheese, you're the big cheese at big cheese.
You'll be the big cheese of big cheese.
Yeah.
Well, you're the big cheese of big cheese.
But do you think
within big cheese?
Do you think that big cheese
it's a three-way cheese?
Do you think big cheese if he called his company Big Cheese and it'd have to be successful or else they wouldn't be a big he wouldn't be a big cheese.
Yeah. And
so,
I don't.
Okay, all right. Let's
start again. Let's get
there. If Pilgrim's Choice, Cathedral City, these are obviously
the big cheeses.
The big cheeses.
The big cheeses of the big cheese.
Yeah.
Of the big cheeses
if
of
we
big
were
cheese.
starting a company with global ambitions to become a big part of Big Cheese, if we called it Big Cheese and were the bosses of it, then we would be the big cheese of Big Cheese.
No, so we'd be the big cheeses at Big Cheese in Big Cheese. What? What? Which is an idea I've immediately gravitated towards. The British appetite for cheese?
Yeah.
Do you think
it's quite embarrassing?
It's quite embarrassing. I really feel that we should be moving past cheddar.
Yeah.
Because I am a cheese connoisseur. No, let's say lover. I meant to say lover.
Slut. Let's say slut.
Let's say slut. Let's be
connoisseur.
Fair. No,
let's say slut.
I am a cheese slut.
The connoisseur has a small amount of each little thing. You just fucking pile in Cathedral City.
Yeah. I don't think eating a family pack of cheddar every week defines a connoisseur. But I am known and I do experiment. We've got our... What's everyone's opinion on Gouda? Now,
I like Gouda.
I'm fed up of asking these questions and no one directly responding to me in the comments. So if we get, let's say, 500 views towards the end of the week, if there aren't 500 comments of what your opinions are on Gouda, you can just unsubscribe. Because frankly, I'm getting fed up of it. But, so, Gouda.
Yeah.
What do we think about Edam?
Well, I don't know I thought we were covering Gouda. You can't say, what do you think about Gouda?
What do we think about Edam?
Well, what do we think about Gouda first?
You know when, if you're in like a pompous talk about something, they ask many questions before they get into the topic to pose the questions to the audience. Yeah. That's what I'm doing here. Big cheese.
Big cheese. What do we think? So are you just trying to do like a focus group?
Do you think that, because Gouda and Edam are two very mild cheeses.
Yeah.
Two very easy on the palate.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what Big Cheese, our company, could do, is go in on that market with a slight, focusing on those two mild cheeses to expand the British public's taste.
As the first battleman trying to get us over cheddar.
Our sample cheese, our statement cheese.
Because cheddar's a good cheese, but cheddar's fucked England up in the cheese thing. It's too good, and we're too unadventurous.
If there was anything that was mostly to blame for Brexit and the First World War,
cheddar.
It's cheddar.
Like everyone's calling people gammon. It's like, how many people actually have gammon ham? It's it's cheddar.
Right.
It's cheddar.
Exactly. And it's like, where do you think British smugness comes from? And the idea that we're better than everyone else. British nationalism comes from...
Exceptionalism is what you're almost talking about.
Well, sure.
It was more the term that's slightly more apt.
Yeah, oh my
It was
God.
still apt.
Yeah,
but this was slightly more apt.
You are right, and
it was a bit more
apt. And
apt.
if there's one thing I will be corrected on, is aptness.
Yeah, it was more apt.
Yeah, more aptly put, it would be British exceptionalism, and that is our mild obsession. What?
Yeah.
That is a pun. Mm-hmm. You don't get excited enough about.
No, I did. Yeah, no, I really don't.
No, you don't.
I don't.
No, it's fair enough. Is our mild, nay, mature obsession with cheddar cheese, and it reeks.
Okay, that's a triple whammy. That's pretty good. Yeah.
It reeks of English smugness, cheddar.
Yeah.
And a lack of adventure.
Yeah. What I'd say about cheddar is that I'm getting into cheese. I can only really I like hard cheeses. I don't like soft cheeses. I've not made that jump yet.
Not even camembert.
Don't even like camembert.
No shit.
No. Well, I mean, you don't like eggs, so let's not fucking talk shit. All right. So
wow, we're going.
Well, it's like it's a hard concept to deal with, and anyone who says you don't like that, it is.
It's not a hard.
It's fundamentally.
It's a soft
moldy.
concept to deal with.
It's no. That's.
I am on fire today.
It's fundamentally moldy milk. So when it's in sort of semi-liquid form, it sort of brings up a lot of... cheese is
Bad
inherently
memories.
disgusting.
Childhood trauma.
It's addictive, and it has an umami flavour that hits different...
Is that like, ooh, umami, that's some good cheese? Or is that an actual word?
No, it's more of a flavour palette, which is like mushrooms are umami. You quite like it.
I'm a big umami guy then.
Umami...
I've never heard this before.
Umami is the Japanese flavour profile that sort of means sort of mellow.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but cheese is umami. So like when you're sweet,
Rustic.
sour, no, it's hard to explain.
But you would both describe cheese and mushrooms as rustic.
Sure, but that's not the thing. Umami, its flavour profile. I'll actually just quickly get up some... What?
I had some Emmental. While he does this, I had some Emmental recently. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Emmental. It is a cheese that I romanticize because when you see it in the fridge, you think, wow, I might get some of this Emmental because of the look of it. Because you mostly see it in cartoons because it's the most beautiful looking cheese. Okay. But it doesn't taste of anything.
So here we go. Marmite has umami properties. Chinese cabbage, spinach, shellfish, cured meats, anchovies are very rich in umami. So these sort of quite powerful
other than
flavors.
Anchovies, that kind of describe my diet.
Yeah, it's kind of like powerful flavors that I think you're going for. And I can't really it doesn't really explain what it is. Wait.
I'm a man of rich flavors, and umami sounds like... Is it umami or umani?
No, it's one of the 5 basic tastes, umami. And umami is savouriness. It's all savouriness. So it's basically the properties of being savoury.
Yeah,
whatever
okay, so
that
rich,
means.
filling.
But it's not salty.
Bold.
Because that's its own... So, yeah, it's
Anchovies
sour, because there's bitter,
Anchovies
sour, salty, sweet, and umami are the 5 taste things.
Yeasty, perhaps.
Yeast, exactly. Well, that's yeasty things are umami, but umami
but not exclusively
yeast.
Thing.
But I remember trying, just to stay on cheese for only another half an hour. I remember trying.
Yeah, we would. I was hoping more.
But I'm going to settle for their sake to make sure it's only 3/4 of the episode.
Hey, I thought we were going to do the cheese special.
I had the Co-op fancy cheddar I thought I'd get, and that means
fantasy cheddar,
extra mature.
Is it called fantasy cheddar?
No, fancy cheddar.
Sorry, I thought you said
Co-op
fancy
irresistible. You know that, right? And I had extra mature cheddar,
and
that blew me. That was a lot to deal with. How do you deal with extra mature?
I will throw if my mum back in the day when I lived with her when I was younger. And then I moved out of that house. Yep. Is what happened. I would, if she came back with anything that wasn't extra mature, I wouldn't only throw the cheese out, I'd throw her out.
Yes, yeah, violently domestic abuse.
Because once you get to the point of mature or extra mature cheddar cheese, you can't look back. It's like once you go black, you don't go back.
Once you go mature, you don't.
You don't.
You've been on fire today.
Once you go mature, if your mum gets mauled, you throw out the door.
Yes.
We're there. Still, it's been a tough week for everyone, but we're still firing on all cylinders. And we're here for you, the viewing
Or
public.
are we? Or
No,
are
I
we?
don't think we are.
Or are we? Are we
Or
going to
are
look back
we,
on this?
Umani, Utani?
No, but exactly. We might think in this moment these are small victories, but I feel once everything's okay, we'll look back on this and think like, this is what we considered a victory to be.
Yeah.
Is getting 3 puns in a row.
Oh, God,
That was us firing on all cylinders. That's how low our fucking standards are
Post-lockdown,
going.
we'll be going out having adventures with shamans in Nepal, and then we'll be coming back and feedbacking on that.
shamans.
Yeah, good. Let's shaman it.
Yeah.
Let's get into them.
What are your feelings on ayahuasca and that whole thing?
Now, I've never reacted well.
Explain for the folks at home what ayahuasca is.
Ayahuasca, it tends to be done in a ceremony, but it is essentially a liquid, a concoction that you drink, and then you throw up most of the time afterwards, and then it's essentially a hallucinogenic or a psychedelic.
Incredibly, it's a natural DMT.
Yeah,
which is which some people have been said is the drug that gets released 10 minutes before you die, but that's still spurious. And basically, I know someone who makes his own DMT, and I think there's similar experiences, but the ayahuasca ceremony is a South American sort of traditional use of DMT as opposed to like getting fucked up in a shed like you would here.
Yeah, it's
a different thing. Doing DMT is just it's kind of it's the same chemicals, but it's a very different thing as going into the Amazon with a shaman as opposed to like doing.
It's
it with
more
your
to
mates.
become at one with the earth and the people around you, rather than to just forget about your life.
Well, because my friend did DMT and he made his own DMT.
You can just say it was you.
It was
my friend. Is this the same friend that had that bum problem last week?
No, that was me.
That was you.
My friend, he made his own DMT, and without batting his eyelid, he told me, "Yeah, so I thought I did a YouTube tutorial to make it, as opposed to finding it. He made it,
terrifying,
absolutely terrifying." But he said it was one of the most profound moments of his life, and it actually changed.
Was he by himself?
I think so. Yeah,
that's nuts.
That is nuts. But he said that it. Basically only lasts for like 10 minutes, but it's the most intense drug experience you can probably have.
Yeah.
And you have it, and then you like go through a sort of psychedelic vortex, and loads of people have a very similar hallucination of meeting the aliens. Going to this thing, and then having this sort of reflection on their own life. And this happens in ayahuasca and DMT.
Yeah.
But he said he did it, and he was a bit of a prick before, and then it actually made him focus on being much kinder and more genuine to people and connect him to humanity. And it can go that way, or you can cry every time you see the color purple. Like
every time,
it's
as
with
psychedelics, it is.
It's a real roll of the dice. And that's the fun. You can actually change your life forever for the better and get over things that you've been struggling with forever,
or find new things to struggle with.
You're just fucked forever, and your brain is putty.
Yeah.
So would you ever consider doing DMT or ayahuasca? Because they're different experiences.
I'm stuck on the seat.
Are you? No, it's probably the button.
The button is like.
It's got caught in.
Maybe this is a sign from the universe.
You have to go forward to go up.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
That's a good metaphor for life.
Yeah.
So my experience with psychedelic drugs has not been fantastic. It isn't my go-to. Not that I do any drugs, man. No. But it's like, it's for me. Well, I just feel like a lot of the time it's It's very overwhelming, and like I've done acid, and it's just a long time. That's the thing. And like there was fantastic periods of it, but there were like, oh my God, I would like this to stop now periods of it. Although, so it's like, I think, to be honest, with these kind of things, I would, as in like you just got to jump into it. And often I found like the first time is your worst time, and then it gets better with stuff like that.
Yeah, but you don't want to be doing DMT at all. It's kind of like
ayahuasca or DMT.
Both are a one-time thing, I think.
Ayahuasca isn't.
Ayahuasca's a one-time thing.
No, like you can do it more frequently than DMT. Well, because our friend hosts shamans of ayahuasca to come and conduct ceremonies in her house or in her.
And she does it multiple times.
She's done it quite a few times, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I feel sorry.
I think ayahuasca I'd be a lot more interested in than DMT, because I think ayahuasca I'd enjoy actually. As in, it
but
seems
ayahuasca is
a
different thing, because the thing about ayahuasca is I'm interested in that whole thing, but you've got to go to South America to do it properly. You've got to go to South America. You
can go to our friend's house who brings South American shamans into the woods of Forest Road.
Maybe.
Like, that's the thing. No, they do genuinely.
Yeah, I know, but I'd probably wanted to go the full hog.
Yeah, but then also, would you not feel more uneasy doing it in the Amazon.
Or
you don't want to see a frog.
But also
you don't want to see like a tree lizard.
Well, we'll probably be licking frogs. It's that sort of.
Well, true.
Yeah, that's where you get the ayahuasca. Problem. But I feel with the kind of tepid experiences you've had during lockdown, which has been so much stuck in like 3 or 4 rooms, the idea of like within a blip you're ending up in the Amazon and you're having the most psychedelic experience of your life. There's something appealing to me. I'm not sure. I'm not decided that it's like definitely.
You just want to lay your hair down.
But like so aggressively that the world turns inside out.
Yeah.
So let your hair down is a bit of an understatement because it's like my hair falls off and forms my father. It's like letting your hair down is the least. Yeah. It's gonna be
Well, I guess we've been so bound within a very constructed and constrictive view of reality that you want to break the bounds of even reality itself.
Yeah, I think for me. I am a fan of drugs, but I think psychedelics are where I feel is like my favorite in general.
Yeah.
My first acid experience was actually kind of.
Mine was acid reflux, which is a whole different thing.
That was your first experience with acid.
Yeah.
Mine was acid house, to be fair. So
was it? Yeah.
That was the first.
Yeah,
one.
I actually went reflux, then house, then the drug. Yeah.
But it was with our friend Michael, who it was meant to be with my friend Michael, who we did.
But he's not anymore. We've had a falling out.
Who we did our radio show with. He was in the first season of our radio show, and he might be a guest in this podcast. But basically, it was he was leaving uni that year. I was staying on, and we thought for the last day that we were going to be in uni together, let's do acid. And we planned it out. He'd got acid tabs, and then he said on the day he was like, "Yo, this one of my friends of mine also wants to do acid. Is it cool if he joins?" I'm like.
Which is a social situation that it should be acceptable for you to say no.
It should be, but then I was like, okay, no, whatever, that's fine. And then, so this third guy came. He was basically more of a boyfriend of his friend, and it just felt like, okay, this is a bit weird. And then we were all in his room about to do it. Literally had the tabs in our hand.
Yeah.
And he got an email because he was going back to Northern Ireland the next day.
Yeah.
And he was planning just to like power through. He got an email that basically the boxes of all his books and stuff he was sending back to Ireland where he's from had like the bottom had split, so he'd had to go at 9 a.m. to like fix it all. And he was like, I can't do acid. I'm not going to do it.
Oh yeah, I remember the story. Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. And so then he was like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I've
got to go fix my split boxes.
I can't do it. And then I was like,
sounds like an innuendo to me.
Split boxes.
He needs to go fix his split boxes.
Mm-hmm. And it was.
Because it later turned out that Michael is a drug trafficker.
That's the moral of the story. But I looked at this stranger who I'd never really spoken to before, and I was like, "Well, I'm game if you're game." And he's like, "Well, I guess so." And his name was Brendan, very lovely guy. And so I was like, "Fuck it," and we both took the tabs of acid, and then had one of the most magical evenings of my life.
It's a very rare moment of complete inhibition loss for you.
It was truly I'm all right with those sort of things. I just don't like. I like hedonism if it's like. I enjoy hedonism. It feels like okay, this is like productive hedonism. That's what I think about psychedelics. At least I can justify it in my brain as like it's like building on something.
Yeah.
And so with this guy, we took it, and I didn't feel stuff for a lot of it, but we just had this really with this complete stranger, and then he was doing a year abroad the next year, so I wasn't going to see him for the whole year. Yeah. And that was the only time I was going to see him.
It's almost nice. You can have a very individual
experience.
Really
individual. And that's probably what made it so good, is that
I
didn't know him at all, so we had everything to talk about.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to see him again.
Yeah.
It's the thing, is that it's literally
it's like the Purge.
The best one-night stands will always be, the hottest thing you can ever say to any other person is, I'm leaving tomorrow. That's like the most attractive thing that one other person could say to another.
For someone with issues of commitment.
No, because it for like the actual experience, knowing that person.
Yeah. Well, for an acid experience, of course. Yeah.
Acid experience
it's like the Purge.
Both are like the same thing.
It's all holds barred for one night.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever you want, and there's no social or societal consequences.
The awkward thing about the Purge, though, so the concept of the Purge from that I think 2014 film, is that's no holds barred. You're allowed to do whatever you want on the Purge. Do you think it'd be awkward if you tried to kill someone and they escaped, and then the next day you see them down the shop?
If you've had a vendetta against your neighbour, for quite a few years
And you, like, this
because
is
of
the
an
day
overgrowing
legally.
hedge. And you thought, you know what, this is the day that I'm going to sort this out.
Yeah.
You get your crossbow out and you see him running down the street and you just miss and then you just look at each other.
That's the only bolt you had. That's the only bolt you had. That's the only bolt you had.
And then and then runs off.
And then he
The
runs
next
off.
day-
The next day, you can't kill him.
What I'd like to see is a film about the day after the purge, about all the failed attempts of murder or whatever.
I mean, because to be fair, I've never actually watched that film because it got like mixed reviews.
I want to watch it.
I want to watch it.
There's
though.
something, yeah.
Because it's a brilliant
Yeah,
concept.
we'll watch it soon.
It's a brilliant concept.
We'll
do
watch it and
We'll
we'll
do a
review it next week.
But The Purge is a brilliant concept. For those of you who don't know, it's the idea that it's a ridiculous... I mean, they could have phrased it a little bit better, but the idea is that in the future, crime is dropped to 1%. And the reason is because one day a year, all crimes are permitted. So you can do whatever you want for a whole day.
Is it because crime got so bad that they had to find a way to kind of push it down?
But and I guess it's a sci-fi, it's a fun concept, it's a horror, it's fine to have these. But I guess the kind of stupid thing is it's just that, which is kind of hard to get over, but you sort of need to, is the idea that crime comes from this pleasure drive that you want to, as opposed to being
passion
about economics.
crimes don't exist, basically. It's not like you get flustered in a moment and do something you shouldn't do.
Yeah, or crimes out of necessity.
Well, again, now that I think about doing the day after the purge, I'd like to also see the 364 days before the purge, when people are like just banking crimes in their head. Yeah. If like someone hits you wrong if someone like you bump into someone in the street or someone says something wrong, you just write down in a notepad all the things you're going to do on the day of the purge.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of note taking. They'll be like,
well, I'll see you on March the 4th or whenever the purge is. But that's the purge. Do you want to move on?
Yes.
Because I have some questions to ask both you and the viewing public about a few men who are basically the same men, but have been very successful in their fields of being actors, right? I've said that in a very roundabout way, which wasn't necessary. I want to ask you how hot certain actors are, because it confuses me, because there's the Hollywood leading man is in a drama, you gotta be sexy.
Sure.
You know, in a comedy, there's in a romantic comedy.
No, I'm just saying in a comedy.
Yeah, I'm talking about romantic comedies.
Okay.
So obviously there's the gap between men and women, and there's a lot more expectation for women to be more attractive in these films.
But in romantic comedies, they do wheel out some pretty hot dudes.
Well,
and there's also a misconception.
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's like they do wheel out some hot dudes, but they also wheel out. You'll never see a not attractive.
Some munters.
Yeah, which is
and you don't see enough female munters in rom-coms.
Exactly, and that's what I'm calling for. But I'm also asking
more munters on the screen.
But is Owen Wilson attractive?
I think so, very much so.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think he has, and I'll tell you why.
I
if
don't
you want to know.
Yeah, I guess I do.
So BB's obviously a big fan of Owen Wilson.
Obviously.
I'm a big fan
Obviously.
I'm a big fan of Owen Wilson, and I think he's someone who deserves an art house glow up. Do you know what I mean? Like you've seen with
he's
Adam
done that.
Sandler. With what?
He's done the DFS sofa adverts on ITV.
No, but he's fucking hilarious in that.
Well, it's one of the most confusing things you'll see of going from the Go Compare man to suddenly you're looking at Owen Wilson.
And his ridiculous voice, he goes talking, eating. It's like
like I'm in the room with him.
Yeah, it's honestly ridiculous. Where the noises are like hee haw,
oh hey. I can't. What does he sound like?
Yeah, when you're speaking, it's like talking, eating. Wow.
Wow.
I like Owen Wilson. I like Owen Wilson as an actor, and the reason why I think he needs an art house glow up, like Adam Sandler, like Robert Pattinson got, is because
Robert Pattinson is not in the same league.
He's not in the same league. He's going to be above, but I'm saying that in the way that you have that kind of.
You can't have cheekbones like that.
Yeah, but Robert Pattinson before his art house glow up, but he
was starting his career at that point.
I guess so.
He hadn't done the Wedding Crashers.
But seeing how incredible Adam Sandler was in. Uncut Gems.
Fantastic,
incredible, and part of what makes him so fucking sick is because it's Adam Sandler and the way it's used, and I hope we see more of those.
It's a bit like Adam Sandler in Fuck's sake.
Punch Drunk Love and
that's
Merowitz
it.
Stories, both, and it shows his range or his ability to act if he needs to. And I think there's a lot of actors that it's like, because what I've also realised is acting is not crazy hard. You got to have the look and you got to have the star power. And that's kind of hard to get. But I think you can put a lot of these trashy actors with the right director, right script, and it would just pop. And it would just pop. I think you put Kevin James in Uncut Gems. I think he would pop off.
I draw the line there. I think Kevin has been so kind of. He's built his career in the same kind of film, and he's so his kind of natural reflexes, his muscle memory, are going towards his comedy. So I imagine in a very tense moment, he'd be more comedic.
I don't know, but Adam Sandler's pretty comedic in Uncut Gems. He has a real comedic edge to him, and that's part of the part of that role.
I think Kevin's a lost cause.
Owen Wilson was in Inherent Vice. He was in Midnight in Paris. He's been in a couple of films with some auteur directors, but I think he's very attractive, and mainly
but it's not. Is he a good actor?
The attractiveness.
Yeah.
BB's a big fan of him, and I think the reason why, and it's like female attraction is something that's hard to understand from the male perspective than male attraction is from the female perspective.
It really is, because I see men that I'm like, yeah, you're hot.
I know a lot of women.
I'm all over you.
I know a handful of women, like 5 or 6 I've actively spoken about this, who think Steve Buscemi's attractive, who think he's hot. Who has I don't understand. And the female Steve Buscemi, that just wouldn't happen for men.
Because I guess it's not we can't get into the mindset of that. I get. Do
you know what I mean? It's
because for me, it's a pretty boy that would get me.
No, but then for women, it's a whole different thing. And I think Owen Wilson has this sort of chilled out. He's like a golden Labrador. He's like a surfer dude.
He's a surfer dude.
He's kind of soft and goofy. He's sort of unthreatening, but also quite sexy. I get it.
Steve
He's
Buscemi,
tall, not Steve Buscemi.
What's he bringing to the table?
Steve Buscemi has kind eyes, I guess, and that little things like that are enough for a lot of women.
Does he?
Yeah, he's got. There's a kindness behind those eyes.
Do you know what my biggest one of the most controversial opinions I think I have is I don't really rate Steve Buscemi as an actor.
Okay.
There's something about him. You know, when you look at someone when they're in a film or whatever, and you can feel all the time that they're acting.
Yes, that's a big problem.
That's every single time I see Steve Buscemi in everything. I'm like, I know you're reading lines.
I guess what I would say about Steve Buscemi, which is a thing that's good and bad about a lot of American actors, which is different to British actors in general, is American actors, they kind of have their personality and then they are them in the films. Steve Buscemi, he's one of those actors who is literally like he's screaming, I'm Steve Buscemi.
You know, I'm reading out these lines.
You know, it helps with actors who you'll never remember. I don't remember the name of any of his roles because I'll only know him as Steve Buscemi in any film.
You know what? You're right. Yeah,
he's always going to be Steve Buscemi.
I can't think of anything. Yeah.
And I don't rate Idris Elba. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
And Idris Elba, I saw him in Aaron Sorkin's new film, which he wrote and directed, called Molly's Game with Jessica Chastain, which has a brilliant first hour and then really goes off the boil. Idris Elba is fucking awful in that film. He plays this kind of generic American when he does American accents. And I look at him and all I'm thinking when he's one of
Idris Elba.
It's just Idris Elba.
It's the same when he comes in the office and does a cameo in the US office.
You're just thinking it's Idris Elba. It's Idris Elba. It's Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. And the best role that Steve Buscemi's had for me is in 30 Rock, where he plays, because part of that is a celebrity cameo as a part of the comedy of it. And it's him putting him in ridiculous situations. And it's almost like, how funny would it be if Steve Buscemi did this?
Exactly, yeah. No, I personally rate Steve Buscemi, but I think he does he brings Steve Buscemi to every role. So if you don't like that, then you won't like anything he does. Yeah, and if you do like that, then
you can't really lose yourself in the story with it, because
it's just like, what's Steve Buscemi?
Why is Steve in this?
Why I like Steve Buscemi is because he's such a unique presence. He's not like anyone else, and he's one of those people
which might make it more difficult for him in terms of doing different characters, because if you're so individual as a person, then it's hard to lose yourself within a character.
Have like a big star who feels he's not filling any niche that anyone else has filled before, because I almost look at Steve Buscemi and I'm like, what made you think you could get into acting?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same with Toby Jones. Do you know that really short guy?
Oh, he's great though.
He's brilliant. But I'm almost like, how do you?
Well, because you always need troll parts.
No, but when you're young, when Toby Jones was young, he's like a squat, tight, like 4'11", not at all conventionally attractive at all. What makes him think that he's gonna in one of the toughest industries in the world when he sets
because
out?
I feel like they're slightly before the celebrity industry a bit more, because like it's almost like the most authentic expression of actor, as in the kind of Shakespearean men who would stand on stage, and it isn't about the attractiveness, it's about how well you can deliver the fucking lines.
Yeah, but if Toby Jones is playing Romeo or Hamlet,
I think he could do Hamlet. Maybe.
No, you
mean, there's a certain amount. Well,
Bottom,
but then
he could do Puck.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, fine. But someone like Gleason Senior.
Brendan Gleeson.
No, Gleason Senior, his dad.
That's Brendan. Domhnall Hall's the young.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, him. He's similarly unattractive.
No, yeah.
But he has a presence, a powerful kind of domineering thing.
One of the best actors of all time.
True.
He's like a white puffy piece of ham.
So what you're talking about, I guess, is short men. You're saying how dare short men get into acting? No, it's not just
short men. No, because Philip Seymour Hoffman and Brendan Gleeson, I guess he could easily fit the role of dads all over the place. Like Brendan Gleeson could be the dad anywhere.
What, and Toby couldn't?
No. Brendan Gleeson, if you look in a casting,
you're saying he's a eunuch.
If you look in an audition room for like 40s dad, they're not going to look as crazy different to Brendan Gleeson as they will from Steve Buscemi and Toby Jones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always respect.
So you think
for, like, the weird looking
you're
dudes.
saying they're too odd looking to even be conceptualized that they could have kids?
Yeah, or just like you're gonna have to make a point about it if they do in the film.
As in, it would be a very tough love story for them to go through.
Well, because most roles in films, because it's such a hard industry, I guess if you have the confidence to think you're going to be a star, which is so rare, most of the time, if you're going to think you're going to have any chance of even falling back on any work, you're going to have to be a generic part of some sort.
Yeah.
So if Toby Jones, just because he's absolutely brilliant at acting, and that's a big risk, backing your talent that much, is the only reason that he's had a career.
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't brilliant, then where are you putting Toby Jones? Toby Jones, if he couldn't act very well.
You're saying Lord of the Rings, aren't you?
I'm not saying Lord of the Rings.
You're saying Lord of the Rings.
No, I'm not saying Lord of the Rings, because then he had to get.
I know you're trying to make a PC point, but what you're saying is Toby Jones is. Oh fuck! What are the bad guys in Lord of the Rings? Orcs. Toby Jones is an orc.
Yeah, but that's still extra work that doesn't come about that often, and it's like,
true, yeah.
and if you're wearing a mask, it's like you're not going to be bringing that much to the table in general.
There's a lot of them as well.
There's a shitload.
There's a hell of a lot.
That's not going to pay your mortgage.
Yeah, no.
Because Warwick Davis is an interesting example because he's not a very good actor at all.
No, he's.
But then he
pretty
got
bad.
in Star Wars, Waterworld,
Harry Potter, and then Life's Too Short.
And Life's Too Short,
which was a fucking godsend for him.
Really. I mean, everyone chats a lot of shit about Ricky Gervais, but he was the first person to put a dwarf on mainstream television like that. I don't think it's ever been done in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to laugh at how short he was.
Pretty much.
But, still, you take what you can get.
Yeah, exactly. But so with Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn people think is really hot.
I don't understand.
And why he's hot is because of his confidence.
Yeah,
because he's got that big, hammy, meaty face, and he wears it.
Okay, so
with
if we're going into
Vince Vaughn, metaphorically, is driving a Ferrari made out of ham, but driving it as if it's in a Ferrari. And if you see a man who's driving Ferrari who's made out of ham, which is what is a metaphor,
you want to take a bite,
and he's whizzing past. And then with the confidence, as if he's running a Ferrari, you're like, that is a cool dude. If he's driving it like, then you're like, what the fuck is that weird guy doing in a ham car?
So a lot of male, because, from me, I'm trying to learn about these things. And the two things I've consistently...
Always learning.
That's what we're about. And the two things that I've consistently come up is confidence and ham face.
Yes.
So it's, again, which I get, there was one more who I just want to cover before we sum it up. Because there was Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson. Oh no, I was thinking Steve Coogan, but I can see the attraction to Steve Coogan, 100%.
Steve Coogan clears up pussy like no one else.
He does,
but apparently, so
really
BB worked with Steve Coogan, and he's like, she said it's the most of anyone she's worked with.
Ben Stiller.
She's worked with Ben Stiller. Don't really get Ben Stiller, but he did write and maybe he directed, but he definitely wrote Tropic Thunder, which is an incredible film.
Of course, but this is like pure animal magnetism and attraction.
He's a comedy actor.
He is exactly.
No one's saying
but he's been in rom-coms. He was in that one with Jennifer Aniston.
Along Came Polly.
I don't like.
He works
Vince
for a rom-com lead.
Right, because I think Vince Vaughn is actually the key here.
Hold up. I'm still saying my thing about Steve Coogan.
Well, okay.
And he's like very short, and BBC said working with him is like the most like powerful she's worked with quite a few famous people, but she said the most blown away she's been by like raw talent than anyone is Steve Coogan.
Acting wise, or writing, or directing.
Just the whole it's more the aura they carry as opposed to like specific skills. And it's because and that's the thing about Steve Coogan is he came up with that whole day-to-day Brass Eye Pack of Amanda Iannucci, Stuart Lee, Herring, all of those people, but he was the only one who wasn't like Chris Morris, Oxford educated, really cerebral. He was just the rawest talent you've ever seen. Apparently watching him on set, but she said you could just tell that he's just like a horny little dude, and it's always the short ones who I think really have that kind of raw sexual power.
Is he short?
That's the thing, is he's surprisingly really short. Okay. And I feel that's what he's trying to get over. And what BBC said was interesting was that he would try stuff and it'd be hilarious, and then people would laugh at it, and he would have that look, like that slight joy. And imagine being Steve Coogan,
still having
like
that.
The most kind of like glorified, one of the most glorified comedians in British comedy, unanimously considered a genius. Still, if you get a laugh from a young woman, you're still like, you know.
Okay, no, the guy definitely fucks.
He fucks hard, and I rate him for it. He used to do coke back in the days. He's done a lot of. He's talked a fair bit about.
Let's talk about our experiences with the combined cadet force.
Yeah.
Because we've been skirting around this.
We've been skirting around this topic because we were scared it was too private school, but I think it's too funny to leave. If you think there's a deep problem in the British establishment or the way that society is organised in this country, then look no further than
us.
You know, we're a product.
We do satire, but we are a satire in ourselves.
If this is what elite schools create, then maybe we should shut them down.
Yeah, absolutely. This story is a discussion about the abolition of private schools.
It is,
if anything,
which I strongly believe. And here's the story to back it up.
So in the start of our when Horatio first arrived at our school in Year 9, it was mandatory to do Combined Cadet Force, otherwise known as CCF.
Which is the army. And you're not going into the army, but you're basically playing army every Wednesday for an hour. Yeah. And maybe more. I think it was longer than that.
It felt longer for us, but it was
an hour. Okay.
So we were forced to do that, and every Wednesday we'd be in our rooms, and just like me and Horatio were quite sprightly young kids, you know, creative, enjoying our lives, and then just the look on each other's faces when we were lacing up our army boots,
military defense standard,
putting on our berets, and like each other just like checking each other's berets to make sure we're not going to get shouted at. And then
you get punished if your beret wasn't
shouted at. And we're not the best at dealing with authority anyway.
Not at all.
Or rules or things that are pointless.
Yes. So we did not thrive.
We did not thrive in this arena.
But just as a bit of context, basically the CCF might sound baffling to a lot of people, and it is. And it's basically in general, especially countryside private schools, because there's a lot of space.
You need to fill it.
How officers, it's from an old tradition of the British Army, is like how you'd basically, the way you'd choose officers from soldiers is that you'd have middle class officers and working class soldiers. So like as a way of like filtering out.
Because that was the point of that. If a world war broke out because we'd done CCF, we'd be officers. So if World War III broke out, you could be under command of me or you.
Really?
Yeah. It was like you'd immediately jump a few ranks because you'd done that. Yeah. Well, because in reality, you had, although it was nothing near normal army training, you had.
Did we have any certification?
No.
We didn't get any official.
No. But that's just how the system works.
Okay, so that's it's a way of filtering out to get like the right people being officers.
So we had to do this for a year mandatorily, and we were put because there were different squads within a platoon. Which is
so we're doing marching.
So all we did was basically
first,
drill, which is basically the classic left, right, left, a squad, about, turn.
We'd have like history teachers who were like big officers who took it really seriously. It was like
the worst thing about it was how seriously everyone took it.
It's ridiculous.
As if we were actually training to be the army instead of depressed, spotty teenagers just trying to not cry. But we were put in a squad with two other kids. The squads, there was like 15 of you in a squad. Yeah. We were put in with two who took it the most seriously.
Yeah.
I think both of them had semi or full ambitions to get into the army at some point.
Go Sandhurst and do the whole thing.
Exactly. So then what they created an interesting dynamic at Squad H, which we were. Was,
do you remember that?
Yeah. Because it is Scott. You know when cows get branded, that's the same memory have gone into it. So we had a very interesting squad dynamic because it was the two kids who were both hopeless and hated it the most and took the most liberties of things with the two who were taking it most seriously. But so we did that for a year of about turns, etc. Yeah. And then the next year, it wasn't mandatory anymore, but it was still on the curriculum. So you had the opportunity to sign up for things like focusing on recycling, or I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. But you could do different extracurricular activities. But there was a deadline for when you had to sign up for.
Wait, sorry. Before you go into this, on that first year, what we were doing there, I remember. Which is like the closest. I still remember it. It was actually kind of wild. It was the first because did we do it in our first year?
Yeah.
So it was the first year I was there. I remember this, and it's the most I've probably been like genuinely abused by another student. Like,
God, yeah.
It was quite bad. Basically, there's this guy who was in lower sixth who was an officer. Year 12.
Yeah.
And he, clearly he'd seen some army films and sort of thought this is like a encouraging way to sort of blood the troops in. He like picked on me.
Well, he's seen too many frat films.
So, yeah, and then he would like get up in my face and start abusing.
I can't for the life of me imagine why he would pick on you
and keep saying, "Well, it was, a lot of people it's because I have an annoying looking face."
I'm joking.
Yes.
Yeah. Because your name's Horatio, you look like a dickhead and you were a prick.
Yeah.
No, you weren't, but you were a bit anti-establishment.
Sure. And I remember him. I had like the first hairs of my moustache growing in before I'd even started shaving, and he would start going in on that. He started talking about my acne.
Wow.
And he was like, he was like, "You really want to punch me in the face, don't you?" And like having this, but like doing it with
he said that.
But it was like it was written like an American film of a bully.
Yeah.
And I just remembered that was like, I remember thinking, this is not a healthy way. To have.
I mean, if I wanted to join the army, maybe I'd accept this.
Because that's
but
part
the
of the
fact
deal.
that I have been made to do this every Wednesday, maybe I shouldn't be.
And that was like 2 months into school. I remember it, because it comes from the kind of private school thing. Do you know?
That's horrible.
Do you know about? I think they're called like.
I didn't realize it was that bad. I thought he just like made you do extra.
No.
Because there were a couple of times he made us march.
He got up in my face. On the thing on the
what was it?
Where we all
parade
on the parade. But it comes from like there's old stories of like in private school you'd have like the back in the day you'd have something like fags is what they're called or something. It's like the way they talk about people who. People in the first year who'd worked for prefects in the older year. And I remember...
like a really abused former personal assistant.
Yeah, and they'd use that as a way of like respect your elders. So I remember reading Roald Dahl's autobiography and he went to one of these schools.
That's why you got picked on.
Yes. And he...
Roald wouldn't have
that. He was one of these... something fag something not to do with gay traditional English use of the term
some weird private school
weird thing And like one of the things during the winter, you'd get the fag something to sit on the toilets to warm it up for you in the morning as a way of like, and it felt like that was like a hangover from that old school sort of.
Well, whenever I sit on a toilet seat that's still warm, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, awful.
Why would anyone want that? Warm my toilet seat up for me, boy.
I mean, I guess this is back in the 1920s. I don't know if
when
maybe
they
there was
felt
less
more, maybe less heat,
I don't
global
know.
warming.
Yeah, maybe.
It was colder back then.
Yeah, it'd be horrible. It'd be weirder sitting down in a toilet and it feeling warm.
What? The warm is worse because
no, cold's pretty bad. Though.
We all
when
have
it's really chilly. Cold's
yeah, but we all have.
Bad.
There's a societal accepted lie that we all sharing, or an omission of truth or reality.
Sure.
Which is that we don't. Whenever you sit on a public toilet seat or even private toilet seats, we all sit on each other's bums essentially.
Yeah, we all sit on top of each other's bums.
Exactly, and the warmth of that is a reminder of it. So whenever I sit on a warm toilet seat, I'm reminded of the fact that someone has just shat on this toilet.
Yeah, it's
so
weird.
if anything, I'd want them to go in and like cool it down.
But the bum cheek probably would be one of the least germy parts of your body. The actual bum cheek.
Yeah. I guess so.
Won't it? Because your hands, your face,
but it's about the
reminder. Filled with
reminder.
germs.
It's the reminder.
Hands grabbing door handles will be way more filled with potentially now than your bum cheek. What germs your bum cheek getting?
Yeah, but I think it's not necessarily about the biology of it. It's more about
the
like
intimacy.
It's like a Vietnam flashback of this is what's happened before.
Well, you sit down and you have a flashback
I remember
of
Vietnam.
another person.
Oh, it was tough out there, man.
Sorry, you were saying.
No. So, well, that is. I didn't realize it was actually that bad.
It was pretty bad.
I remember him, that specific guy, shouting at both of us. But I got it a lot.
What was his name?
It wasn't. Oh my god, I can picture him.
Yeah, I can picture him.
Sam Burrows.
Sam Burrows. Yeah.
You know what? We're not gonna bleep that.
I don't give a fuck.
you're gonna account for your sins.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had. So Horatio was clearly. Horatio was as I say, as is unimaginable why it would happen that you'd be picked on in a more an army situation.
Because I couldn't even do it if I wanted to. That's the problem. I didn't want to, but even if I did.
Bearing in mind, this was a year about coordination.
Yeah,
it was a year about knowing where your feet and hands are and being told to do something. Which, because we would stand next to each other and I would try. I would be like, mate, just fucking turn this way, but it would never work. We then kind of went down together. But so after the back of that torrid year, we then had the opportunity to do something else next year. You could choose from a variety of different things. There was a deadline to do it, and it was a first come, first served basis.
Yeah.
And this is probably the most indicative story of our two personalities together, is the fact that we ended up forgetting or not really realizing or not really caring that we had to do it. So then eventually we missed the deadline, and then we had to do it for another year.
We had to do it for another year when there was an option to get out.
We could have got out.
Feeling like it wasn't even our fault.
We were the two people.
Who wants to do CCF? You've chosen to do this. We did not choose to do.
We were the two people who hated it the most, were the worst at it, caused the most aggravation for everyone.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing it again for another year. And then, as you say, it was you've chosen to be here.
And then CCF split into three things. It's just so ridiculous. Into Navy, Air Force, RAF, and Army.
Why?
Navies are the biggest spenders. No, there's no two ways about it.
It's a shame. It's a shame, but they are, because it's like the stereotype of the Navy is probably a bad thing, of course. But when you're not going to war, why would you choose to be in the Navy?
Yeah, and there was only 5 people in the Navy.
It's like the point. Right, actually, I want to go on about this. If there's you're in a school situation and popularity is obviously an issue. Bullying is an issue, of course, of all those things. Why in fuck's name would you decide to go into the Navy where all it is social situation? You're not doing anything different.
You're not going on a boat.
You're not going on a fucking boat. You've chosen to be in the fucking Navy for no reason other than for social.
RAF was pretty lame as well because they had like a more formal dress.
Yeah, Andy Williams was the biggest. Yeah, our friend. It was a shame seeing him, but so with that, so we had another horrible. We had another horrible year of it. But towards the end of this, we got an email in, and we realised that. We were getting towards the end of our journey of CCF and we were nearly at the finish line.
Yeah.
And then we realised that we had to do a retreat. and go on CCF camp over the weekend. And I remember we both got our mums involved. And we were like, this can't be mandatory. We're not doing this. We didn't want to sign up for this anyway. We're not doing. Bear in mind, most of the people are like, yeah, this sounds fucking great. We're going to do this. So we had to go on a weekend retreat of doing army shit.
Was it in the New Forest? I think
somewhere like that.
Somewhere, yeah.
So it ended up, and then we went there, and basically it was 2 days, and there were loads of different activities. Some were worse than others. Yeah. But you had to sleep in what's called a basher,
which is basically what a basher is you have a piece of string and a tarpaulin, and you need to try and make a dwelling with whatever your wit. So some people will love it because they're like, look how dry I can keep myself with just this string and tarpaulin.
When you're not very competent at those things.
That was the worst night seat I ever fucking had.
Me and Horatio ended up on the edge of the camp, and we just put this basher up, and you get fucking rations. Like, I think they're trying to teach you this idea of, because it wasn't even towards, that's the thing about the army, it wasn't towards the idea of like self-sustenance and survival techniques. It was just army shit.
It's just so much army.
Because it wasn't like, yeah, okay, well, this is what you do in this situation. It was like, put that piece of fabric up on a string, now eat these cold tin of beans. That was it. And me and Horatio, I remember us shivering under our basher with our like little cook.
It wasn't a well-made basher.
We were terrible. And it rained so much, and we were both just there shivering. Like, not talking to each other because of how upset we were. Just shivering, crying in the rain. And then, the next morning, we wake up and we hear fucking gunshots or something.
Yeah, there's gunfire.
And as I say, me and Horatio, for some horrible reason, ended up at the very end of the camp. So we were the last basher out of all of the others that were there. And we just heard like gunshots firing from the distance.
Yeah.
And we hadn't slept. And we kind of looked at each other like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. By the way, the RAF were also there.
No, the RAF were.
No. I'm just saying they were also there. And we heard blanks, so we all had guns, and we had
like a yellow thing tied to the end.
Yeah, we had like fake guns, but they were real.
They were real guns, but with
they
blanks.
Shot blanks.
Yeah.
So we had to sleep with those because it was similar to Kubrick, and this is my gun. You had to sleep with it, and you had to protect it all times. And then these blanks started going off. I mean, we were sleep deprived. We literally thought, well, this has got to be a joke. This isn't real. Why the fuck is this happening? And then we kind of got out of our basher, just confused about what the fuck was happening. We're like, well, I guess this is time for us to really kick into action.
It's war!
It's war, baby!
We're under attack!
I think one of us definitely distinctly shouted, we're under attack.
Because we're the first line of
We're the first. For some horrendous... They knew we were the two idiots of the group, but they were like, we're going to put you...
We're under attack!
Everyone, rise up! Our entire way of life is under threat! So we picked up our guns and we walked out like juggernauts.
I didn't pick up my gun.
I did.
You picked it. Okay, go.
Oh, yeah. I think we both picked up a gun and walked out as juggernauts, slowly just shooting at these random pops that were happening in the distance. And then we could see like a few really intense, into it people hiding behind trees, somersaulting over.
It was the RAF.
And we were like, we realised it was the RAF.
The RAF had ambushed us. And I was like, this is not acceptable. The RAF do not ambush Horatio Gould. So now I think, okay, look, these blanks aren't doing shit. And literally, I didn't think of it in a funny way.
That's the problem with blanks.
I thought about it in like an instinct way. I didn't even pick. I realised we're under attack. I was bleary-eyed. So then I start getting the biggest sticks possible, and I started javelining the fucking RAF. Because I was like, you can blank as much as I like. But
so although we were clearly the two of us are the worst at the CCF, Horatio was definitely worse than me.
For sure.
So then when he started throwing sticks, he brought me down with him. So I also started hurling sticks and lobs. Like, you stay out of our territory, you RAF dickhead. And throwing them at them. And then you just heard this massive, stop!
We had to stop the war. We had to stop the battle.
And then our commanding officer then stood up and then got all of the RAF, ex-SAS, and got everyone out of the trees and marched over. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Because it was a planned attack for us to test our army skills.
And what you're meant to do is go into battle position.
Is go into battle position
in your basher, so you can defend yourself. That was the main.
But
thing.
we walked out and threw sticks at him. And then he came over and he shouted, he was screaming at the two of us, and he went, "What the fuck?" He was like, "What the fuck are you doing? How fucking dare you?" He went, "Get to your basher!" And then we were standing right next to it, and Horatio just went, "But sir, this is our basher." And they went, "Well, fucking lie down then!" And then me and Horatio were just lying on the floor, just okay. So that was the day before, and I think that was the end of it. Of our CCF.
All right, to round off the show, we're going to end with Andrew's got a 2 gripes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
One of them is the online and general argument about whether there should be pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, that's a very good gripe. I'm fully with you.
The argument in itself. Mm-hmm. Why do people get so much pleasure about having that argument?
It's true.
Also, I don't care.
No, not at all.
It's just do what you want to fucking do. Stop putting it's. I guess it's stop putting your opinions on other people. But also, it's not interesting anymore.
It's not at all.
And why people get so much pleasure from diving into it, and then the fact that there was a massive online discussion about it, and then also there's now all we do is live in a world of callbacks of that argument. Yeah. And I can't get away from it. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Yeah. I don't care. Personally, I'd prefer not to have them. But then I'm at a point where I don't even want to say what my personal preference is of fear.
You want to add to the discourse.
Of adding to the discourse.
I think this also speaks, I completely agree. I do think that people who cling on to those small arguments because they think it's zany and fun, it's not zany and fun.
It's not.
It's sad. I do also think it is. You're always like a year behind in the internet, and I do think it's. Are you finding this on Facebook?
No, I'm not always a year behind in the internet.
Where did you find this? Where did you find this discourse?
I saw it referenced on the Chase today.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's not a year behind in the internet.
It kind of is. Though,
what did I say? I say
watching
now it's all about
TV.
callbacks. Now it's callbacks. Yeah. There's callbacks to it. Yeah. I'm not saying we're in the heavy part of the discourse right now.
All right. No, but I do otherwise.
Oh, well, I don't go on Instagram, sue me. Fucking hell, I don't have a Twitter account. Christ. Oh, what's Bebo? Oh, I don't have a MySpace.
But yes, that's a fair gripe. But there's other ones like that. I was trying to remember. There's other things.
Because my general gripe would be these quirky internet arguments that then go into something bigger.
Yes, for true. Okay, what are the ones?
There are a few.
There's loads of like the classic ones. It's like how milky your tea is, but that's not really one.
And people start to claim it as an identity. Yeah. Rather than.
But then that feeds into the kind of problem that I've been talking about, which is like if you don't give people identity, they have shit ones.
Yeah.
If you don't have like a collective one, then naturally all humans have a desire for identity to belong. Then suddenly you've got people saying, "I don't like pineapple on pizza," and it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, fuck you! Yeah, no, I understand that.
So I think that does go into kind of a big point that we're trying to make this podcast. It's like you need to be giving people a collective, fairly cool identity, because otherwise they're going to take some shit.
Otherwise we're going to get all this shit that happens on a regular basis. Exactly. And I'm fed up with it. I'm goddamn fed up with it. I
don't think white people should have an identity as white people, but they're the people who are making these debates, and we need to find a healthy way to give them something. Because Kraft Ale, pineapple on pizza, this is not healthy ways to get.
They're not tenable.
This is not the future.
They're not. Yeah, we really need to. We need to come up with some different identities quickly, and not have them so.
There's a scale,
Oh my god, it's all just so everything is just so fucking bleak.
Sure.
It's bleak.
What's the next gripe?
No, I'm not done.
You're not done.
I'm not done. Everything, just the mundanity of things.
Yeah.
All I've seen recently is mundaneness. And it is fucking harrowing to watch. And because the company I work at we have a message board. And not a message board, just a way to communicate because we all work at home. But that meme culture comes into it. There's a meme channel on it. Yeah. So it's interesting to see people flock to it, but it's become its own social media, even within a workspace.
What's this
situation? Slack?
Yeah.
Do you know Slack? Yeah. So there was a post that someone did about you can get.
So this is a workplace
thing,
like communication.
Yeah,
for
but
companies.
You get these things come through onto it because people are because they're starved of identity of being able to be in an office. So they're starved of not only their identity but also interpersonal relationships. Yeah. So it comes out in torrid social media things, like on what I'm seeing on the computer, and people
compulsive,
just
pathological,
flock to the most inane nonsense.
Yep.
And I'm fed up of seeing inane nonsense.
But I wonder.
I can't do it anymore.
So
I can't.
I think before the pandemic, there was certainly, and this has been seen a lot, there was a sort of like a movement in art, which is like people who elevate the prosaic, who glorify the mundane. That's like seen as like, there's a lot of great artists who their real skill.
Does that take a picture of their bollocks or something?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm talking more about like plays that really render the feeling of oppression, but in a way that's focusing on the very smallest of details of like a normal, a real
street
person's
photography
life.
Is a.
But like, do you know what I mean? Where it's like you take the
do.
mundane, and comedians do it a lot, and you make it something special. You elevate it.
Yeah,
what poetry is. But maybe there's going to be, because I'm wondering what the kind of next wave of art's going to be post pandemic when we're out, and I wonder if there's going to be a push for grandiosity again. Do you think there's going to be?
I think there will be.
Do you think there's going to be more there's not aspirational people anymore. There's not like a push to be. There's not like. Because we're so scared of having anyone as being elite or role models, we can't have any sort of aspiration. I wonder if there's going to be some sort of like inhumane. We're not going to be constantly trying to bring down people so that we feel we can relate to them. Maybe we can finally have some sort of push for like a lot aspirational.
A lot of the push
standards.
I think a lot of the kind of the push or the causes of something, a focus on grandiosing mundanity, whatever. Mundanity. Yeah. Yeah, put your water down. Is we're living in a system that doesn't really appreciate that, as in like the kind of everything's focused on the more. Most of the time, as in like before the pandemic, is a lot about there's not a strong societal appreciation for individual emotions, and I feel like people getting lost in a system, feeling like they're meant to be focusing on their individual, but they just feel lost in a herd of numbers and one, rather than a collectivized system.
Yeah,
you get a focus on the mundane because it's about the individual lived experience of an individual, whereas. I think everyone's so fed up with the mundane right now.
Because we pushed it to its logical endpoint.
Exactly.
Because you look at the medieval
But also,
ages.
not just because of the art, but also because of the pandemic.
It's true. And it's moved. Part of modernism has been this focus. And part of it is brilliant because it's dealing with the reality of everyday life. But if you look at any sort of medieval art, you look at the Renaissance, the whole point of that is this complete elevation, the divinity of it.
We need to make another tapestry.
We need a next Renaissance. That's the problem when now we've killed God. It's hard to have something fully elevated that's not unbelievably problematic. You know, that is the problem. So we need a new God, to be honest. As well.
But then we're shitting on celebrities at the same time, who are our new gods.
But they're not, because we've brought them down to our mundane level.
Exactly. Because that's what I mean.
Celebrities. If you look at the glamour era of like the 30s and 40s in Hollywood, you look at Chaplin, Greta Garbo, those kind of people, where it's when glamour started. Like, a celebrity was this ethereal creature that just was beyond anyone. There was only 5 celebrities in the world, but now celebrities don't even exist.
They still are. I think they still function quite godlike in our society.
I think that's the part of the thing. Is it's like we're obsessed with them, but we're sort of obsessed with their mundaneness and encourage.
But what happens with an obsession of image becomes an obsession with the uncovering of the image behind it.
Yeah.
So an obsession with the human behind the image.
But I definitely
strived for that, but I still think the image
of them has gone, partly with the Me Too, cancel culture, stuff like that. The sort of like, you know, I do think I don't think it's heading to us more deifying them. I think there's just so many of them, they're not even special anymore.
Can I ask a question very quickly? Right, if you're thinking of a celebrity, who's the first person that comes to your mind?
Ariana Grande.
Is it?
Yeah. What about you?
Leo DiCaprio. For me, it's always Leo DiCaprio, and it can never be anyone other than Leo DiCaprio.
I don't know if that's the first person I was thinking of then.
Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if you need to ask me.
But when you think
about, ask me when we went and had this conversation, because I was thinking about.
Okay. But who do you think it would be?
Brad Pitt, Leo. You know. That's why I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is that they got those two, just like
and kind of 3. Margot,
but she's still up and coming.
Still up and coming, but still
relatively.
Yeah.
Because and the reason why they stood out is because they're the last 2 were like still at their sort of prime. You know, they're still in their working age. They're not. It's not like when you wheel out Harrison Ford. You know what I mean? Where it's it's fun that he's reprising those old roles.
They still got it going on.
They're still like making new stuff.
They still got it. The
last kind of. They're probably, which was interesting about a film about Hollywood. They're sort of the last two proper Hollywood stars who have that, because the new stars you don't have Hollywood stars in the same way, and they still.
Matt Damon's like the guy on the subs bench.
He's on the subs bench for sure, but then there's too much.
Ben Affleck's just a cunt now.
He's a cunt, you know. Yeah.
But well, do you want to wrap it up, or we could do the second gripe, which weirdly is related to what we're talking about. It's Jared Leto.
Is he your gripe?
He's my gripe.
Yeah, he's unbelievably annoying.
I'm so this is an old gripe, just because I was trying to think of gripes and saw him come up on a feed.
Yeah.
He posted a t-shirt of him wearing he posted a picture of him wearing a t-shirt saying "We live in a society."
Mm-hmm. No, he's one of the worst dudes.
That encapsulates everything he does. Mm-hmm. Is a picture on Instagram of him wearing a t-shirt saying "We live in a society." I think it was for a charity. Fine.
He's like he's one of the shittest polymaths out there, because one of the interesting things about him is that he's also losing a 30 seconds.
I used to admire the fuck out of him,
because you do when you find out that someone has succeeded individually in more than one field.
It's astounding, yeah.
But then when they do shit in all of those fields, like Jared Leto he was really good in Dallas Buyers Club, and then from then he rode that wave to tricking everyone to thinking that, oh, he's good, so I think he's good. You look back and he says, I watched him in Blade Runner 2049. I've watched that recently.
Terrible.
Awful in that.
Oh, horrendous.
He's so bad in every film.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's awful as the Joker, but everyone, we all know that. But he's just so annoying, because he feels... I see when he's acting, and as we said with like the Steve Buscemi screaming, not only is he screaming, I'm Jared Leto, but he's also got this, which is a problem that is one of my pet peeves with all actors, is I can't get on board with someone when it feels like you can feel them going, this is great acting right now.
And that's all he does.
I'm destroying this scene right now. And you can tell that when he finishes, he's like, ooh.
Someone give me an ice pack, because I need to cool down.
He felt really good after that day, and you can just tell.
And that bleeds over into his Instagram and everything. Yeah. All of his social media.
But then the problem with giving actors social media is that these are people who are athletes, they're craftsmen, they're often fairly brain dead when you get underneath it, who their skill is trying to inhabit someone else. Once you give them a voice...
He shouldn't be brain dead, though, because he's also the lead singer-songwriter of 30 Seconds to Mars.
It's true, but...
Who aren't good anymore, but they had
like 2 songs.
Don't break
they had like 2
me
songs.
down.
They had like 2 songs.
Bury me.
That's a good tune.
Like it really captured.
But you don't want to give actors a voice, because it's always disappointing, because they're collectively some of the most boring people on the planet.
Yeah,
you know,
there are obviously exceptions.
Army Hammer, loads of exceptions.
Army Hammer.
I think Brad Pitt would be pretty cool dude to hang out with. I'm a big fan of Brad.
I'm a big Brad fan too.
If you're going for that top level,
I think Leo would try to have inappropriate sex with me.
Well, Leo, everyone's been giving Leo a lot of shit, and maybe rightfully because of the younger women. But I rate him a lot. I still like him. I mean, one thing, he does act hard.
I haven't heard
at least with Brad, it's coming. The wave's coming. And I've noticed a lot of people saying they're really unattractive to him.
It's because people have seen enough of him now.
Is there seen enough of him? Yeah, but also he doesn't act very regularly, but when he does, it's a big thing.
And he fucking smashes it.
He does smash it. The one thing which I like about Brad Pitt and Ryan Gosling is that they're so subtle and they play it so small. Leo, in every single role he does, he will end up smashing someone up,
One of the best acting
screaming.
Performances I've seen is Ryan Gosling in The Nice Guys.
Amazing. So good.
He is fucking hilarious.
He's great.
Unbelievably hilarious.
At the height of when Vice... the Facebook, Vice, the internet magazine was at their worst, even though I'm subscribed, so they probably are awful. Remember when Vice started being this really cool, we're going to go down, we're going to work in ISIS, and like being like the most like radical video journalist, and then they became like the shittest journalist site ever. They did one of those awful things, including we should give black people sleep reparations, was one of their worst ones.
Sleep reparations?
We should get, basically, because... someone they published an article about with this like student who studies race relations, and she was saying that because of the sleep that her ancestors had been starved from during slavery, that now they should give like black people like an hour to sleep in, or like find ways to give them back more time, because she's like, and she spoke about it almost poetically, like, I feel the tiredness in my bones. I'm like, look, to be honest, we're all tired. It's called existence. Do you know what I mean? And what's hilarious about reading
that kind of argument is a bit of a travesty, because it's a pretty tough argument to talk about reparations in general, about different generations.
Hey, I like reparations.
No, exactly, but it's a difficult
sleep
argument.
Reparations, you can fuck off.
Exactly, but it's a difficult argument for some people to understand about having kind of reparations for previous generations, about
even financially.
Yeah,
so which has a logical argument.
Because of the depreciated position.
That completely makes sense to me.
When you're saying you're tired.
When you're tired. But the worst thing is, when I read it, I was
like... It just
like,
doesn't help.
The
it's
reason
worse
why,
for the cause.
But also, if I was black, I can imagine reading that and thinking, I'm tired. And immediately that link's made. Yeah. That's why I'm tired.
Anyone said anyone...
We're all tired! We're all tired.
Well, anyone said, like, Irish people are tired. I'd be like, you know what? Actually, yeah, you know, I am.
If someone writes a thing about your specific group saying there's a reason you have a bad back, you will immediately go like, that makes sense. Not that all humans have bad backs. But their one was the most annoying Vice article I've ever read, which is like, Ryan Gosling is overrated. What?
Yeah. So there was just one Vice article that I saw the other day. That was
Ryan Gosling is overrated. Here's the only 5 types of character he plays.
Fuck off.
5?
Fuck off.
5?
Yeah, that's not bad.
For a leading man, that's a great... It was the dumbest article. And they went into detail about Ryan Gosling is only one of these 5 different guys. And it was they were just talking about his immense range while talking about his lack of range.
Yeah.
Because if you're at that level of Hollywood star, you play 1 character, maybe 2. And they explained... It was so dumb.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling.
Me
and
too.
Also, what I hope for Leo, after seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is... Which I hope he's going to start, now that he's lost, his looks are starting to go a bit. They're going, which Brad's he's gone into them.
Yeah.
Leo, if you take a photo of Leo with flash camera, it's not good. It's not good.
Brad's gorgeous.
Brad is he's aged like a fine wine. He's more gorgeous.
Because Brad from the outset was your more masculine kind of heavy, not a heavy man, but you're more like your dirty masculine man, whereas Leo was a pretty boy.
More masculine the look, the better it ages. The more effeminate things, it's like a quite chorus boy.
Exactly,
but then what I thought was good about his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that it was really funny.
Pretty boys always seem to get a lot of chin later
on. Is that I hope he goes into more comedy roles, because that was the first time I'd seen him be funny, like properly. He was hilarious.
Hysterical.
In that film.
Hysterical.
So I hope that in the future he kind of like, much like Bill Cohen did in the... much like Andrew's dad did in the Amdram Society of Burgess Hill.
Yeah.
Once his looks start to go, he started playing the more comedy roles.
Exactly.
That's what I want for Leo.
What you've got to do, as much as Amdram is a metaphor of life, as it always is, it's about going old with grace. It's about aging with grace, and it's because you can see the Leo and the Brads. You can see the Brad Pitt who's going from the leading man, as Bill Cohen was back in the musical theatre days, and then slowly transitioning into the comedy man. It's like who played the Fonz? What's his name? Why is
fucking is white hair?
Yeah, white hair.
Is he in Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No, he's
not
Larry David.
No, not Larry David.
When I will find it. Why am I so bad with names? It's... Hold on, Fonz. I'm just going to type in Fonz. We're going to get this nice and quickly. I've accidentally typed in find. Fonz. It is Henry Winkler.
Okay, yeah.
Henry Winkler has done that the most astonishingly well, of going from the Fonz, the cool guy, the sexy, attractive guy. The guy didn't age well.
Sure.
Then he just became a comedy character. He became the butt of the joke. He came from the setup to the butt of the joke, and that is the only way to do it.
You've got to know, as an actor, unlike being a writer, or a creator of some sort, you've got to know that you are at the whims of what vibe you give off. And if your vibe starts if you start giving off some stanky vibes, you've got to lean into that.
But that is also the metaphor for life in general.
It's true.
Aging with grace in the age of plastic surgery. Is about aging with grace and actually being a more attractive older person.
One thing I'll say is that I think that is a tiny bit naive in the sense that there is people with an expensive enough plastic surgery that you're like, they look natural. That's just because they've got good plastic surgery. I think I personally believe, well, this is partly what BB's told me, it seems like anyone at that level it's got a lot of shit done. It's just.
Do you think anyone? But also, I'm talking about for the average Joe here.
I can't imagine Clint Eastwood getting.
I'm talking about Bill Kerwin.
Okay.
I think we've crossed wires there.
Okay, sorry.
Is that my father
was
not the leading man.
fillers.
He was not the leading man in My Fair Lady to then fill his cheeks with plastic. My father went on and he went to be the dame in the pantomime series. I don't know, whatever. Cinderella or whatever the fuck he did. But yeah, I think the message from that is go old with grace and stop trying to be attractive, become funny. And maybe you can achieve both at the same time.
Okay, and we've done our time. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Subscribe to the page.
Way up!